Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's talk on A Course in Miracles. And specifically, tonight I'm addressing the dangers of A Course in Miracles. Now, if you're looking for dirt on A Course in Miracles, this is not that video. This isn't about what's wrong with A Course in Miracles, but what is often misunderstood about the Course and the misperceptions that people have when they start this course, and how often they become quite disappointed because sometimes the word miracle in the heading could be quite misleading. And I know some people that buy this manual hoping that it's going to be some sort of magic. You're going to learn some form of technique to go around healing people. The Course in Miracles is written at the dreaming mind level. It's addressing the dreaming mind. And so the basis of this is there's only God. God is pure love or light, ever extending. Light extends forever. The extension of God is light. That light is known as the sonship, the sons of God, the extension of light. It's all just pure energy, but we use words like Father, Son, and Holy Spirit to try and put it across in a way that the human intellect can understand before it really transcends into the oneness principle or the atonement principle, or the non-dual understanding. And as light extends, light is light made of light particles in our understanding. A singular light particle fell asleep and dreamt up this entire universe. One son of God fell asleep and is dreaming this up. A part of the son's mind that dreams, another part of the mind is still fully awake. The mind that is fully awake is known as the Christ mind, or we call it the Christ mind, the awake mind, the enlightened mind, the lit mind, the mind fully aware of self and God as one indivisible self. A part of the mind that dreams, projects thoughts. Those thoughts take form. Those thoughts inform is what appears as humans. Every thought is the thought of what can I be? When it chose to fall asleep, of course, no thought can remember of the mind that fell asleep. Every thought thereafter was, what am I? And how do I find perpetual joy and happiness? And why would it want that? Well, because it's inherent in its essential nature. The essential nature of that which is light, God, ever extending, in our understanding, from humanistic process understanding, is joyful peace. Joyful peace, forever extending, is unconditional. It's unconditional, undifferentiated, indivisible love. That's what it is, and that's what God is, love. What I'm sharing with you tonight can often get into the PG, 21 to 45. So I am not a spiritual teacher. I'm not a teacher at all. Okay, in actual fact, I'm the exact opposite of a teacher. And the opposite of a teacher, in my opinion, is called a liberator. My words, my own understanding. A teacher teaches you a curriculum. In other words, programs you to understand something. In my opinion, A Course in Miracles is unprogramming you, liberating you from the program of beliefs, concepts, ideologies, and dogma. So if you want to label me something, poet, philosopher, liberator of thoughts, that's it. I'm a dude like any other dude. I run a company. I'm a CEO of a company. I pour myself into this world in the best way I know how. I'm far from perfect, far from healed. I'll no sooner give you a good smack upside the head than bless you. So, I don't suffer fools. I make a good living. I have no need for divine providence by teaching and getting students to give me their money. There is no society. You cannot belong to my organization. The last thing I want to do is create another church, another cult. Church and cult's the same thing. Another society, another circle of lunacy or foundation of inner madness. That's the last thing that non-duality is meant to be. The last thing I want to do is to create another religion. And some may find it quite judgmental on my part. I don't really give a fuck. Call it what you want. I'm calling it out. And when I see so-called teachers turning this beautiful non-dual or unity awareness understanding into a religion, into a dogma, and into a business, I'm going to call them out. If you want to call it judgmental, call it judgmental. I don't care. I quite enjoy it. This I know for a fact. I don't know shit. What I do know is the essential nature of my being. And that I know with total clarity and complete conviction. I know the joyous lightness of being. I know my essential nature. I know the joyous peace I am. I know that that essential nature is the nature of what we have named God. God is not a being. God is pure energy, ever extending. It's the life force in all of us. I'm aware that that is what my true essential nature is. I understand we all are. Everything in the entire universe, all life in the entire universe, rocks included, the very core essence of all of it is peaceful joy. And that is our indivisible shared beingness. We share that with everyone. If mankind was to understand that we have one soul, one single soul, one self, one spirit, and that spirit is the extension of God, we would stop harming ourselves and each other, and we would awaken to the infinite lightness of being. Being what? The extension of God's beingness. Every year that passes, every moment that passes, every contemplative moment that I abide and rest in God and allow the thought of love to filter through me, my understanding is refined. Ultimately, the ultimate truth cannot be spoken. It's impossible. It's beyond words. The closest I'll get to it is a gentle, joyous peace that is just, yeah, there's no word. It's what I wish upon everyone, what I will upon everyone. Um, I understand that that essence is our shared nature, our essential nature with selves, fractured selves, and God. That's the truth of what we are. We are simply but characters in a dreaming mind, thinking that we think. We are thought through. We are thoughts that have taken form. We are thoughts of the dreaming mind that have gone out in all directions to try and remember itself. Course in Miracles is addressing that dreaming mind. Of course, us as characters in the dreaming mind have access to the voice for God, the voice, the Holy Spirit, the memory of God, which is actually present moment awareness, because there's no memory in God. God is pure presence, and it's calling us all to be ourself knowingly and dissolve the dream and awaken to self and just continue extending the light we are. I can only share with you my understanding from my perspective, from my perceptual perspective, through which I've had through my direct experiences. You won't find me requoting and quoting huge streams of Course in Miracles, material. If you look at my website, if you look at my YouTube group, Miracle Mindedness South Africa, all I'm really sharing is my own interpretation of it. There's no point in me putting Course in Miracles quotes there. You've all got your own book. That's just ridiculous. Why would you do that? I'm not trying to make myself into something I'm not. This is what you see is what you get, and probably a whole lot less. I share with you my own remembering. I'm becoming a member of the family I've always been, as we all are. We remember, we unlearn, and we remember self. And I will share with you through direct expression, and I will give you examples. And if you think I'm telling a story, I'll use a story simply to bring forth an example that it makes it palatable for you. I could share only with you my viewpoints. And of course, the majority of the dogmatic Course in Miracles community is going to disagree. I don't give a fuck. I really just don't. I mean, who cares about what stupid people think? Judgment? Absolutely. They are stupid. It's just what it is. They're dumb. Okay, what are we going to do? They want to be popular. They want to be teachers. And you can see they're just stupid. No life experience, but they want to sound intelligent by quoting reams and reams of stuff. A parrot can quote verbatim. You could teach a parrot to quote A Course in Miracles. It doesn't make the bird any more intelligent than a pigeon. Okay. Ultimately, we have to have a vital understanding of how the Course is working. It's simply energy. And vibration becomes sound becomes words, and words have meaning, and meaning is just words or symbols twice removed. The Course is working on various different levels, and hence people very often get confused and say the Course is contradicting it. The Course is meant to be done sequentially because it's taking you through a process where you're asleep, thinking you're spiritual, and there's a spirit world in the heaven, and you're psychic, and you swallowed a crystal when you were 6, and now you can see the kundalini. Some bullshit. Some made-up spiritual mumbo-jumbo crap that people make up. A crystal is no more magical than a fucking dead rock. It's all the same shit. It's all made in vengeance. The whole thing's a damn illusion. There's nothing spiritual in the entire universe. There's not a spiritual place. There's not a spiritual thing. All of it is just vengeance in form. Okay? The essence is all contained in love, but it's filtered as what appears, and what appears is made in vengeance. Face it. This is the curriculum of A Course in Miracles, and it's a completely different thought process to any other non-dual teaching. Buddhism, Taoism, Advaita Vedanta, the Upanishads, the Mahavakyas, all of it is very different. Of course, it all gets to the same understanding ultimately, but A Course takes a very different process. You try and marry the two, including religion, and you will fuck it up and get more confused. It works on three different levels. It's working on the physical level, it's working on the mental level, mental and psychological, and then it's working on the metaphysical level. And this is where the level confusion comes in. I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. What did God create you as? Pure energy, light. So I'm not a body, addressing the physical. I'm not a body, I'm not this. But I'm also not the mental construct, my sensations, my perceptions, my thoughts, my feelings, my emotions. Perceptual awareness or perceptual consciousness, thoughts, feelings, sensations, emotions. Perceptual, not true. And then the metaphysical. So it's taking it beyond the physical. And that takes you straight from consciousness, dream world, into conscious awareness, awake awareness. While we're in form, the closest we get to pure awareness is conscious awareness, till God takes the final step and we dissolve back into the Christ mind, all of us as one, no individual awakens, and then we awaken back into the pure awareness, present moment awareness, which is the light of God ever extending. This idea that an individual can become enlightened, all that means is enlightened is simply the recognition of our shared being. Doesn't make you walk on water, can't heal anybody, nothing really changes about the character, and that's one of the biggest misperceptions. The character is going to be all of a sudden talking with clasped hands and smiling. Look at me when I smile, I'm about to kill something. You see that? It's just not meant to smile, it wasn't designed that way. And then they speak in soft tones, and what a fucking load of bullshit. Really, this is what it is. What you see is authenticity. And if anything at all, here's a primary example of you can just be a road cowboy that rides a motorcycle and runs corporate companies. Wow. Someone once commented, how can you be spiritual and run a corporate company? How can you be a CEO and be awakened? Hey, moron, clearly you've never run a company. And once you run a company, you realize corporate, sport, spirituality, it's all just labels of dogma and perception. It's all the same thing. Nothing is spiritual. It's all spirit. Thinking it's having a human or whatever the hell experience it's having. The minute you think something needs to be in a certain way to be spiritual, you've lost the plot. There's absolutely nothing spiritual about A Course in Miracles. It's all just pure logic. Pure logic. And what's logic? Clarity of awareness. Okay. Never, ever, ever confuse psychology with spirituality. These are fractured parts of self operating at different frequency levels in the dream. Okay. Psychology and the practice of psychology addresses behavioral issues, human behavioral psychology, my background. Okay. That's what I have a master's in. This is what I've studied. This is what I did my dissertation on. This is what I've spent my entire life, my adult life, working on as a strategist, as a behavioral strategist, helping companies and people realign and grow out of trouble. Okay, so behavioral psychology, a subject on its own, many different avenues of behavioral psychology. There's psychology on its own, there's behavioral psychology, industrial psychology, and then there's psychiatry, which has got to do with medication, chemistry. Don't confuse the two. A Course in Miracles is not about human psychology. I know it's got a psychology part of it, but if you've not studied psychology and you're not schooled in psychology, I mean, not that you necessarily need a degree and to be a licensed psychologist, but if you haven't spent at least 30 years understanding it, don't give psychological advice because you're into a very dangerous arena. But psychology addresses behavioral psychology. And remember that if you look at a spectrum, a bell curve, you've got the outliers, the laggards, and you've got the majority in the middle. And what is considered the middle is considered the norm. And psychology always addresses what is norm. And that's why from one culture to the next, what is normal for the Portuguese is absolutely insane for the Afrikaner. Okay. And so forth and so forth. So what's normal, but that's where psychology goes. And when people study psychology, what are they really studying? They're studying the previous so-called philosophers, psychologists, and people that have explored the nature of behavior. And then it gets put into a curriculum and someone comes up with a process or two, and that's really what they study. Ultimately, the whole thing's bullshit. And if you go and study psychology, you'll notice that 80% of the class are completely fucking insane, and the other 20% are just looking to get laid. Fact, go look. Okay. Then you have the other school, spirituality. Spirituality addresses beliefs, spirituality. Now, spirituality is such a wide spectrum. Some of it is just what I call fake spirituality, fake awareness, and it's got to do with chakras and crystals and fairies and kundalini and yoga and dressing like a fucking hippie. You know, motherfuckers died, in the 70s, but yeah, we have a new generation wanting to look like the hippies. Really wearing it's like they go and look for the ugliest fabric they can find, grandmother's curtains, and they turn it into dresses and pant. And it is fucking insane, mad, batshit fucking, and they don't wash their hair. And then they love to drive Volkswagen Beetles and combis and have peace signs and dreadlocks. It's fucking insane. It's just posing. That's nothing to do with true spirituality. True spirituality is understanding the nature of being, the nature of creation, that which created us, wanting to know why and what. What am I? What created me? What created this? What's the purpose? What's the meaning in all of this? That's now getting in the right direction. And if you do, and eventually stumble on the direct path, as in Advaita Vedanta, and you get into the Four Noble Truths of Buddhism, or the Four Mahavakyas of the Advaita Upanishads, or the Egyptian Book of the Dead, or the Tibetan Book of the Dead, you'll realize, Sufism, mystical Christianity like Meister Eckhart, it all takes you to the same fundamental understanding. I am, God is. Observer, observer dissolves. I am that which observes. Where do I observe from? From that which is. And it then becomes just what is. And once you rest in that awareness, rest in that present moment awareness, you're resting in God, the silent stillness. And you rest there in gratitude and the awareness of self, which was once a void, which is devoid of nothing and full of all of what is. And the pure joyous lightness of being comes into your awareness and is shared. Because now it's not about being a reclusive. That's the journey back to God. Once you've really recognized the essential nature of what you are, your journey with God begins. Because now it becomes your ministry. You pour back into the world. And no, you don't give up your day job and become a spiritual teacher. You do your passionate nature. If you play piano, if you're an artist, if you're a strategist, if you're a policeman, if you're a marketeer, if you're an industrialist, you keep doing what you do. Just do it with present moment awareness every single step of the way. The greatest mistake we make is now you think you found this and now you want to be a spiritual teacher. Please note, India, Tibet, in those countries, it's part of the culture to go and be a Buddhist. They send off their little kids because they can't feed them off to monasteries. And then those kids become monks, and eventually they become, trust me, 80% of the monks just want to go and play soccer and have fun and just get laid. They're just stuck, and that's all they know how, and someone's feeding them, and before you know it, their lives are over. And then some of them just naturally have an awakening sequence, like a Ramana Maharishi at a very young age, 18, at 8, and then by 14, fully awake to self. And they become the so-called teachers. Now, we think we're going to aspire to be that. Unless you're living in an ashram and someone's feeding you in a community, you see the light that you are, don't try it. And there's not necessary. And the age of those type gurus is coming to an end, another 100, 150 years, and there will be no more such gurus, because the gurus are those that live by example in total, authentic, transparent way. The future of spirituality, the future of the guru, is those people that come into this world completely authentic, completely transparent, and are here to serve. the greater whatever. Okay. So bear aware, coming back to the point I was making, psychology and spirituality are very, very different avenues in the dream. Never confuse the two. Although the two disciplines can be very complementary, like let's take, for example, a psychotherapist that's using Course in Miracles principles of forgiveness to help heal a client becomes very complementary. But very often they're also contradictory, because the psychology world, even though sometimes it touches on the meta psychology part or the metaphysics part, still believes in a physical world. It still believes in the materialist world, subject and objective realities. And at some stage, the non-dual or the unity awareness of A Course in Miracles is going to clash with the psychology principles. This is the very reason these quick course people, those that do a course, a 3-month course in hypnotherapy or some form of psychotherapy or counseling or life coaching, unless they've done a proper degree in life coaching, which is in essence similar to a psychology degree, and it's been a year or two, and there's case studies and lots of case studies and strictly monitored and licensed. These 3-month fly-by-night, they've achieved anything in their lives. They failed in their lives. They failed in their marriages. They failed in their careers. Now they become life coaches. Now they've learned a curriculum. Watch this. This is why those so-called teachers, gurus, therapists, whatever, get themselves into deep, deep psychological shit themselves, and they get into all sorts of nonsense in the world, especially when it comes to sexual deviancy. Be very wary of who you decide to appoint as someone that's going to guide you and show you a better way. Okay. I no longer practice any form of psychotherapy at all. I gave up that practice way back in, well, I don't know, 2009, I think it was. And I was done, because I realized that I really couldn't help anyone, even those people that left here so-called healed, whatever symptoms they had, unless they really were disciplined and dedicated to total healing, it would come back. They would find another way to self-sabotage. Psychotherapy is not an exact science, as I've said before. It's really, architecture isn't an exact science. When I studied architecture, what are you doing? You're studying the previous architects. Frank Lloyd Wright was one of my favorites. Luis Barragan, one of my favorites. And you're really studying their techniques. And yes, you get into the mathematicals and the engineering, which is ever evolving. But what is it? What makes a great architect? Their own creative ability to put things together and then project manage and make it work. Psychology is the same. Mathematics, accountancy, it's ever evolving. There's no exact science. And education is really just taking many years of different curriculum and understandings and putting it all together into a single curriculum, compressing it into 3 to 5 years or 6 years, and then you get a speed up education, and then you go into the world. And when you go to the world, you start from fresh. Shit. A brand new architect, dangerous. A brand new psychologist, dangerous. A brand new policeman is super dangerous. A brand new minister is even worse, and a brand new spiritual teacher, oh my God, they're still trying to figure themselves out, and they don't even know what's good for themselves. Now they're going to give people advice. Enough vices in the world. Don't give advice, never take advice. There's enough vice. Okay. The important thing, the difference between psychology and spirituality, and I hate that word, spirituality. It sounds like spare rib, just a whole lot of nonsense. It started with that fucking spare rib, and then she spoke to a tree and a snake and all sorts of shit. Spirituality and spare ribs are dangerous. But the truth of it, when you get on the right path, is non-duality. Am I pulling the piss out of it? Of course I am, even with a straight face. The underlying message of non-duality is it provides us with a unified awareness of a shared indivisible self, the interconnectedness between all of it, the passionate love that flows through all of it, that life force that flows through all of it, that animates the dream characters in our Son of God dreaming mind. If you're struggling with understanding self, wanting to know the nature of self, the nature of God, this is the curriculum. But if you're struggling with depression or any psychological or mental issue, find a professional. Do not go to a Course in Miracles teacher with psychological and mental issues, especially if it's chemical, especially depression. Sadness, everybody goes through sadness up and down, you know. Your favorite soccer team loses and you're sad, you know. If Brad Binder doesn't win the MotoGP race, I'm sad for about 3 seconds. Depression is a serious challenge. And unless you're equipped and skilled and schooled on how to deal with depression, be careful, teachers, of giving advice. And no amount of non-dual understanding is going to get you out of depression as a human being. We're talking about different levels up the ladder. A course is addressing us. It takes us through a process. But if you're struggling with psychological issues, find help. If you're struggling with pain, understanding non-duality is not going to get the pain to go away. You could try hypnotherapy, and you're going to numb the pain away for a while. But pain is there for a reason. It's trying to tell you there's an underlying condition that needs work. If you're struggling with pain, don't try and be spiritual, and spiritual people don't take medication. Ooh, chemistry is bad for you. Who told you that bullshit? Okay, yes, you know, there's certain types of vaccines that are bad for you, and certain types of, everything's bad for you. Snorting shit up your nose is bad for you. But taking a tablet when you're in pain that has come from a reputable company, you know, prescribed by a reputable doctor, you'd be stupid not to. If I have a headache, I take a tablet, or ride a motorcycle. Or ride a motorcycle, take a tablet. Come on, don't be stupid. Don't be, I'm spiritual, I'm not supposed to, whatever. There's no such thing. It's just dogma bullshit, special spiritual nonsense. You know, I'm special, I'm spiritual, I'm not supposed to take chemical. If your knee's sore, go see a doctor. If you need an operation, get an operation. Your head hurts, take a tablet. You know, if you've got cancer, you can go the healthy route or go and get chemo. There's no right and wrong. It's whatever you feel is right for you. Do it. But don't start saying it's not spiritual to do this. Hey, every single one on this planet's going to die, spiritual or not. And if you think you're not coming back, have you ever seen a lava lamp? Little balls of ooze, and they ooze up to the top as they heat up, and then it all collects and it all comes back down. You're going to be around until the entire mind wakes up. Oh, but someone told you you can awaken and become enlightened. And where the fuck would you go if you're part of a dreaming mind? Mind's asleep. Every thought in that mind that has taken form, a character, if that thought no longer exists, in other words, has self-realized, where does it go? There's an awake mind. Does that awake thought now go into the awake mind? There's an awake mind. What happens to that thought? It returns to that dreaming mind and lights up the dreaming mind until the dreaming mind fully awakens, and all that's left is the awake mind. Not a single character, not Ramana, not Jesus, not Lujipu, not Mujipu, no Mu, nobody, which was a thought that took form, leaves the dream. It dissolves as it becomes light, the light of the Christ mind, which is calling the dreaming mind to awaken. And when the whole mind is lit, you're merging the two, and that's vital, the merging, the interdependence. The one dissolves, and all that's left is the right mind, and the extension of God continues. So get out of your head that you can awaken and enlighten and leave the dream. You return to the collective ooze, and with each thought that awakens to self, lights up the dreaming mind more and more. That's what's happening. Any other belief you've heard is a wonderful story. It's simply not true. Okay? So a person like a Jesus, a Ramana Maharishi, no longer exists. When they dissolved their identity and awoke to the Christ mind we are, they were a thought in the wrong mind. They're now a right-minded thought that has lit up that mind, and hence the mind becomes lighter and lighter and lighter, and that's why today's society is so much more awake than it was 10 years ago, 100 years ago, 2,000 years ago. It's becoming lighter and lighter and lighter, and you can see it right now, the use of technology. The fact that you're watching me on a phone, on a screen, shows you the interconnectedness of the dreaming mind instant. This was impossible 100 years ago, 20 years, 30 years ago. You're now listening to our shared mind awaken to itself on the media. I love those people that want to diss social media is bad for you, and then they produce Zoom videos on whatever they're selling. This is showing you the interconnectedness between the mind awakening to itself. Okay. Coming back to psychology and spirituality. Not all, if any, or maybe some. Carol Howe, for example, is highly schooled, highly educated, one of the best, if not the best, Course in Miracles teacher out there, is a prime example of someone who really has understood, embraced, and shares a psychological process of healing intertwined with the non-dual understanding. Then you got people like the South American guy, Nick Arundis, okay, if I've pronounced his name correct. Nick takes you straight into the direct path. No need for psychology, because Nick bypasses all of this mumbo jumbo psychological, behavioral psychology shit. He cannot, he doesn't, I haven't seen him do it, address human behavioral psychology issues. In the 2-3 times that I've met him, in Birmingham in the UK twice, he takes you once in Ibiza, was it? Yes. He takes you straight into the non-dual awakened awareness state. He gives you a glimpse of the direct path. Then you've got to find. But bear in mind, not all, if any, or very few, should I say, Course in Miracles teachers have actually got a formal psychology background or psychiatry background. Yes, they may have done some courses in self-help, blah, blah, blah. They're in no position to give you psychological healing. Remember, the course is addressing the complete at mind level, not the individual character. There's no mind in this head. Okay, there's a brain in here. I make jokes. There's no mind in here. There's no mind in your head either. There's a brain in there. We exist in mind. We exist in the consciousness of mind. No one has a mind. We're all projections of one mind. And so the course is addressing that dreaming mind. It's getting you to take responsible, even though you appear as a character, that you are that which has projected the character appearing as you. And so very, very few, if any, Course in Miracles teachers are professional psychologists or psychotherapists, and definitely not psychiatrists. Psychiatrists prescribes medicine. Okay, psychologists don't. It might give you a joint, but that's not going to help you. Okay, maybe temporarily, ayahuasca, some bullshit. So be very, very careful that people are now addressing deep trauma because they've read a non-dual book. It's at the bottom of the ladder. There's a very different way of addressing the mind in A Course in Miracles. Warning, okay? And here's a warning for so-called spiritual teachers of A Course in Miracles or any other non-dual blah, 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 okay? The self-righteous need an enemy. Did you hear me? The self-righteous need an enemy. So who's self-righteous? Psychologists, psychiatrists, and religious people, the church, self-righteous motherfuckers, the whole lot of them, okay? Because only they are allowed to talk about God, even though there's 30,000 sects of Christianity. And so they're always right. Their little clan, which is a cult. Every church is in essence a cult because it's a culture made of norms and habits and beliefs. So it's a little cults. They are threatened because you're taking away their money. You're taking away their followers. And because they've been institutionalized and approved by governments. You've become an enemy. Christians need an enemy. They need a devil. They need someone to be out to get them. And the psychologists, like any other professional, architects, lawyers, and so forth, they all think they're so important. You know, no one else knows what they do. That's why doctors love to be called doctor. They forget their first names very quickly. Doctor. And they need an enemy because they're self-righteous and they're going to come for you. So when you start encroaching on their territories and you start stealing their future potential patients, even though you may be a complete different country, they come for you. Be wary that you don't become a target, that you set yourself up to be a target, because the self-righteous need an enemy. Okay. Now, the very first thing they'll do is accuse you of being a cult leader or starting a cult because they don't understand it. Now, remember, where does the word cult come from? It comes from the word culture. And what is culture? Set of beliefs, norms, values, principles that we adhere to in a certain society. And that's what the norm is. We're going to behave that way. That's a culture. So what's a cult? A business is a cult. You join my company. These are the rules and regulations. This is how you behave. None of that. None of this. This is the rules. 8 to 5. Lunch break. You don't steal. You don't sexually harass. You speak in a certain way. You address things. This is how you behave. A company is a culture. Now they're going to accuse you of being a cult leader. Why? Because you're amassing students. And especially when you start getting little mini-me's around you, little mighty minion companions that are now supporting you, and they all really want to be you, so they're all jealous of you anyway, even though they love you and worship you and want to have your fucking babies, some of them, you know, that's a fact. Okay, they all want to sleep with the guru, but of course, exclusively. And they want to really share the love, and then they're very hurt when the guru shares himself. And what happens there? Now you got to feed these little mouths. You got a little 12 disciples or 13 nutcases around you, and you got to feed them too. So now you start earning money from your little congregation, from your little cult. And now it becomes a money-making thing. And most spiritual teachers haven't amassed to anything, but they all want that nice luxury German car. And so before you know it, it becomes expensive. And then they try and capture them and keep you and make it difficult to leave, whether it's by rules or psychologically. And those other cults called religion and psychotherapy are going to attack you because you're taking away their followers. And of course, God forbid that someone dies in this little cult because they're going to come after you. Because, of course, people don't die of anything else in the world. I mean, in South Africa alone, there's 1,000 people dying on the roads daily. Never mind December, that rises up to 10,000. But the point is, I'm wrong about the figures. I'm making it up. But it's high. But God forbid that someone comes to your little ashram or cult and dies of whatever the fuck they were dying of in the first place. So they're going to come for you. Because, oh my God, someone died. Wow. People die all the time. But here's the danger. People seeking, especially with deep depression, that may be suicidal, you might just be their last pillar of hope. And now you want to take them from, they want to kill themselves, they hate themselves, they've been abused, they've been mistreated, and now you want to take them to the non-dual. It may help a little while, just like when all of you have picked up the book for the first time, it's just amazing. And 2 months later, or 2 years later, or 10 years later, your shit's back. Why? Because the ego mind doesn't let you go gently into the light. And these people who are struggling with depression, manic depression, bipolarity, deep manic depression, they are suffering something that if you've never been there, your sadness on a scale of 1 to 10, sadness is 1.5 compared to depression being 10 and off the radar. And if they happen to kill themselves under your protection, you're in for trouble. Find people the right professional help and be open and transparent and authentic enough to say, I cannot help you. You need professional help. Let's help you find the right help. And that's really a warning to the teachers. Be careful. You're putting yourself up for targets. And hey, men and women, although this is mostly addressed at the male men that teach A Course in Miracles, do not sleep with your students. Seriously. If you really need to get your fucking rocks off, just pay for it. Go to that little corner cafe, wherever the fuck it is, and pay for your 11 minutes of pleasure. Do not take sexual advantage of your students. They're opening up to you. You are a representation of a higher awareness, of the face of Christ even perhaps. And now you're taking sexual advantage of them. Really, don't do that. Just don't. If you really need to fucking get off, pay someone for it. Go somewhere else, but not your students. Because you create little hierarchies and you hurt people. And it's not right. I know you're so fucking desperate and so fucking lonely that you have to sleep with your students. Don't do it. And if I find out that you are, I'm going to call you out on it and I'm going to expose you. Be warned. I have the wherewithal and the finances and the tenacity and the fuck you attitude that if you do that, I'm coming for you. You've been warned. And you can threaten this thing. It doesn't scare for fuck all. You don't know what fokol is? Look it up. It's Afrikaans. Great word. But be warned, male spiritual teachers, especially Course in Miracles. I will come for you. It's a role I've chosen to play. Deal with it. You find it judgmental, I don't really give a fuck. Okay. So, warning to the seekers, the students. A Course in Miracles does not address human behavioral psychology. Habitual patterns, latent tendencies. You want to stop smoking, you want to start snorting, you want to stop drinking. It's not going to do that. It's addressing the collective dreaming mind level, not the individual body-mind apparition. Okay? It's not relationship management. It's not going to get you to fully understand interdependence, although it's all about interdependence, one indivisible self, billions of fractures of one self. It's not going to address your codependent issues. It's not going to address your abuse issues, your heartbreak issues. It's addressing the mind. Meditation, forgiveness, 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 forgiveness. But if you've got deep-seated trauma, such as post-traumatic stress disorder, you've been in a war, you've been attacked, you've been abused, you've been raped, Course in Miracles is not going to address it. You can forgive it. But that latent tendency, that deep subconscious psychological issue is going to be triggered at some stage or another. It's got to come out. The darkness has to come out. The shadow work has to be done. You've got to address it. You've got to deal with it. And once you've understood it, then the forgiveness happens. Course in Miracles is not going to deal with that. Okay? At a higher level, it deals with all of it because none of it's real. But we're not here to deny the world. We're here to bring up and integrate our dark shadow selves with our light. Because when you integrate the light into the darkness, what happens? Only the light remains behind. But while you haven't addressed those issues, the light comes and the darkness returns. Because the darkness, the ego, ain't letting you go gently into the light. Okay? It's not about wealth creation. A Course in Miracles has absolutely zero, fuck all, nada, zilch, nothing to do with law of attraction nonsense. Law of God is the law of reciprocity. What one has is given to all. What was given to one is given to all. This is not about law of attraction, which is a selfish, how do I attract shit into my life? Because if you think you're going to attract stuff into your life to make you happy, if you think you're going to make manifest, vision board yourself awake, hey, arsehole, you have manifested an entire fucking universe. You, all of you, everyone watching this video, you are the dreaming mind that's projected and made manifest you and every other creature throughout the universe. What do you think you're going to make manifest that's going to make you any happier? What? So you ain't making manifest nothing. You're letting go of the need to manifest everything, and you're going to return to the remembrance of what you are. Course in Miracles is not here to address your physical ailments, physical disease. Reading A Course in Miracles is not going to dissolve your cancer. It's going to make you realize cancer is not true at the ultimate level, at the absolute reality. But while you're still a thought in form of the dreaming mind, made in vengeance, trying to remember itself through the experience of what it's not going to make your cancer go away. But with enough forgiveness, you're going to realize that none of it really matters. But it's not making the cancer go away. If you need physical healing, if you need chemotherapy or whatever the case may be, go for help. What it's going to do is bring you to a lighter state that you realize the underlying cause of what you see as symptoms, cancer. And it's everything, every disease, every ailment, any form of suffering has always got to do with unforgiveness. And the fact that you've projected outwards and in a condition, and so that you can hold what appears as others to blame for the dream of separation you and you alone have created. And because you now fear the vengeful God that you've imagined, not the true God, you now want to appease this imagined vengeful God and blame everybody else for your shit. And part of the way that you do that is hold yourself a victim. And so you've chosen to participate in the script where you come into this world and you're dying of cancer. And now, woe is me, it's a great attention-seeking device. And now you do get all spiritual and you think being spiritual is going to awaken and heal the cancer. The miracle is of the mind completely reversing and the full realization of our one indivisible shared self. Course in Miracles is not going to deal with psychological and mental disorders. If someone is bipolar, if someone is struggling with deep depression, deep psychological trauma, Course in Miracles is not going to deal with that. And no Course in Miracles teacher, unless they're a psychologist, like a Carol Howe, for example, will be able to deal with it. I don't care who they are. I don't care how popular they are, how many YouTube videos they have, how many students they've amassed, how many books they've written, how many millions they've made. They do not understand it. Fact. And why do I say that? Because I'm schooled in it. And so I can speak from a place of being schooled. I've done dissertations on it. I've done case studies on it. I've studied formally. I understand. I have a master's in behavior. And so I can speak from a place of authority because I've lived it. I've been educated that way. I no longer practice it because I understand its weaknesses. I understand its illusion. And quite frankly, I just don't want to listen to anyone talk shit about themselves ever again. But what does A Course in Miracles really do? So now I've explained to you the dangers and what it cannot do and what it cannot address. What does it do? It prepares you, it progresses you from dualistic, I am this, maybe a spirit world and angels and unicorns and other shit and channeling and all the other myriads of nonsenses. Because what you're channeling, your own dreaming mind. That's it. Okay. Or your awake mind. And if you're channeling your awake mind or the voice for God, sometimes you hear it as Jesus. What are you actually going to channel if you're channeling right-mindedness? Do you want to hear a word from right-mindedness? Here it goes. Did you hear it? That's a right-minded channel. Silent stillness. That's it. God is silent. Right mind, silent. What are you going to hear? Anyone that claims they're hearing the voice for Jesus, talking shit, because Jesus is dead, the Christ continues, and the Christ is silent. Filtered through your perceptual errors, okay, your filters of perception, that light, that silence, is going to filter through as pure love if you've only got one little filter. You've got many little filters of dogmas and beliefs. That filter may sound like Jesus or whoever, Santa Claus, the Easter fucking bunny. But there's no Jesus because the Jesus thought dissolved and became light. Christ mind in the dreaming mind, calling the rest, lighting the mind up. And so if you understand the non-duality, you understand how ridiculous it is to believe Helen Schuchman heard the voice for Jesus, whether she thought so or not, or whether anyone else says they do. And when they're channeling Zork from Zook and some ascended disaster master, they talk absolutely shit because it's either right mind or your fucking own dream. That's it. Am I sounding aggressive? It's because it's factual. Praat lekker vlot kak. Talk absolute fucking shit. They believe their own delusions and there's enough mad bunny bliss fuckheads in this planet that want to believe in that shit. It's just preposterous. And you see them, they're all fucking cooked and it's just, come on, let's step out of this now. It's time to step out of this. Step beyond the dream. Step into the right mind. Step into and ground ourselves and establish ourselves as the Holy Son. Awake to self, letting go of all magic and nonsense and source errors and witches and fucking magic. Let it go. Awake to self. Pure logic. Pure logic. Hey, how can I speak this way? I'm creative too. I'm artistic too. I'm sensitive too. Way more sensitive than anyone else I know. The fact is, the logic is just simple. The truth is simple. Okay. What the Course is doing is reversing our thoughts, reversing the way you perceive, getting rid of your perceptual filters, latent tendencies, habitual habits, and bringing you clarity and certainty with complete conviction. I am this energy, I am, full stop. God is, full stop. Beware, beware. People are unhappy. The world's unhappy. Even the happy people, happy, unhappy, happy, unhappy. If you're up, let's talk about Ken's ladder. If you're struggling with earthly issues, And now you meet the spiritual teacher. What most spiritual teachers do is they get a glimpse into eternity, a holy instant. They were struggling, they're searching, and they have this holy instant. So a part of them transcends, goes to all the way to the top 10th step of Ken's ladder. But the unhealed part is still at level 1, 2, and 3. And now they speak from this healed place, and they present their mask of innocence, their spiritual mask. That's what they present. And then they speak how they imagine that mask looks. They have no idea how it looks because they're presenting ugly. They can only see the ugly part of the mask, reflected back at them, but they present the spiritual face, the mask of innocence. Look up the video, Mask of Innocence. I'll put a link down further behind at the bottom of this video. And now they want everybody to act that way. They speak spiritual. They want to get spiritual circles. They want to speak in soft tones and sing kumbaya. Hey, that's one aspect of them. The rest of them still down below, unhealed. Okay, and that's when they get into their deviances. That's when they get into their lost in translation magic shit, where they try and shoehorn their old beliefs into this beautiful non-dual atonement process, where what is atonement? It's realizing I and my Father are one. I've done nothing wrong. I simply dreamt a dream where I sinned, where I made major mistakes, and I believed I was going to be punished. None of this is true. I simply dream, awaken to self. Remember, people are going to hold you accountable. And people that don't take self-responsibility, they're going to hold you even further accountable. They're going to blame you for their own failures. Many people are looking for spirituality to find an excuse to fail because they're actually inherently lazy. They take no responsibility. They're unwilling to do the work. And they think that by being in your proximity and touching the robe of Jesus, they're going to heal. If you haven't understood and transcended, and the peace of God hasn't transcended your understanding into the knowing of our shared being, you can ashram yourself until the cows come fucking home. You can or mu, makes absolutely no difference. You're stuck in translation. Okay. Spiritual teachers set themselves up for this shit because they make promises they cannot keep. Let me give you an example of unhealed teachers, whether they be Course in Miracles or any other school of thought. Okay. You're aware of this. I'm not telling you anything you don't really know. The first type is my favorite kind of loony fucking bin, the religious fanatic. Now, church didn't work for them. The whole idea didn't work for them. Being an altar boy didn't work for them, or their whatever charismatic religion they were in didn't work for them. But they're afraid of abandoning Christianity completely, or the Jesus symbol, because Jesus is a reflection of the love of God we all are. So that there's something, I mean, remember, Jesus is simply a concept that we've bought into, an idea, whether he lived 2,000 years ago or not, still unproven. But let's say Jesus has lived 2,000 years ago, great. It's still a concept that we want to believe of a highest possible being, of a reflection of God in this world, not an embodiment of God. God's not in the dream, no body, but definitely a reflection of the Spirit of, okay, the Holy Spirit of. And they love that idea, and they're not ready to let it go. So what do? They find this non-dual course called Course in Miracles, and they take their old religious dogma and they shoehorn it into the blue book. And then they try and start another religion. Before you know it, they're calling themselves Reverend so-and-so, and Minister so-and-so, and Ashram so-and-so, and there we go, another cult, another religion. And then, of course, Jesus taught the course, and Jesus said, and Jesus said, and Jesus said. Jesus said absolutely fuck all in A Course in Miracles. Absolutely zero, zilch, nothing. The I that speaks to us in the Course in Miracles is our right Christ mind. Christ is the awakened self, not Jesus. Jesus awoke to the awakened self. So watch out for the religious fanatic. And of course, they're going to turn it into a living because that's what churches do. So they don't know how else to live. So they're going to teach A Course in Miracles, Reverend so-and-so, and he's going to charge you for it and start a church and a monastery and a cult. Okay. Then you get the misguided academic quote machine. Fuck, I love those things. They can quote scripture. 1 John verse 17, chapter 4. Fuck, and they love the course. Oh, they quote that shit. Oh, it sounds so intelligent. in the course in Course in Miracles, Manual for Teachers, chapter 16. Oh, shut the fuck up. You can't use your own words. You talk shit. You're just a fucking parrot. That's what you are. You're a parrot. If you cannot bring yourself into it with total passion, authentic, no matter who the fuck you offend, who gives a shit, then you don't know shit. You can quote it. Jy praat lekker vlot kak. That's it. Bottom line. Okay? If you haven't transcended it and been completely authentic, and you're just so wonderfully spiritual, really, I'm yet to see a miracle. Just one. Just one. Just one. Then you get the Messiah complex, and this goes hand in hand. Remember, that could be all three, in actual fact, very often are combined. The Messiah. Now, he's had a holy instant, thinks he's Jesus, or the messenger of Jesus, or is talking to some archangel. And please notice that those people that talk to angels, it's not lekker. It's not lekker. And they're emotional. They're always crying. You notice there's always an emotion in the voice. It's not healed. An angel. Angels were the Anunnaki. The old Bible, the Old Testament, Yahweh, the sons of God, they were the fucking aliens, Anunnaki. And they were angels because they flew. They came from the heavens. Heavens, the sky. And now you depicted things with wings. They're angels. What the fuck are they going to do with wings? Okay? I mean, how could Joshua have wrestled with an angel? How can he wrestle? And he broke his hip bone. How does that happen? Because he was a human being, was a creature, was an alien creature. Angels are messengers. What's messenger? Thoughts. And how does God use these angels? Mighty companions, physical form, often in the form of cats or pussy, same thing. Okay, then you get the Messiah. What's the Messiah? They love the adoration. Then you get the predator man-child. This one needs attention and needs to get bonked and was a nerd at school, didn't know how to get laid. So got tired of playing with his own wiener and now decided he became a spiritual teacher, could lay students because they're the desperately seeking Susan types. They go to Sunday school and they're just looking for a lover. And so they now find the spiritual guru. And that's all he wants. He wants to get laid and make money while he's at it. Watch out for them. You can see them a mile away. Okay. And then you get the hippie angel lover. And it's all crystals, and he's always got a picture of Jesus and a picture of Ramana and statues and incense burning, and they speak in soft tones, and they wear the floral shirts. They're fucking cooked. Lost in translation, spiritually special. That's what they do. Now you're aware, 5 types. There may be more. And remember when I said 5 types, sometimes it's a combination of a few, and sometimes all into one. Realize this about unhealed healers. As I've said, the 10-step ladder. They haven't dealt with their fractured selves. They haven't dealt with the trauma. Sometimes it's drastic shit. Okay. Sometimes it's traumatic. Wars and racism and discrimination and abuse as a young child and having to overcome, and the fighting spirit, not give up, and then massive wars and losing friends and watching people get blown up and post-traumatic stress disorder, and there's a desire to transcend it, and they've been seeking and they're genuine. But what you're going to see is they're going to be a little rough. You're going to call a spade a fucking spade, but they're searching, but they're authentic, and they're not afraid to hide the fact that they're not fully healed. Nothing in form is. Here's an example. And some of them go and study professionally and then realize it's all just a fucking joke, and then give it up and just go and get a day job. But bear this. Even those that study psychology professionally and get a professional education, the reason most people go and study psychology, most psychologists study psychology, is because they're unhealed. They're trying to deal with their own traumas. They're trying to understand their own behavior and the behavior of why people around them hurt them in such a way. They go and study the psychology discipline. Doesn't make us, a psychologist isn't necessarily healed. In actual fact, most of them aren't. If they were, they'd stop practicing. But be wary that Course in Miracles or non-dual teachers don't necessarily understand the complexity of human behavioral psychology. Be very wary of that. They themselves are highly, deeply traumatized, and they've abandoned their fractured, unhealed parts for the spiritual mask. I've mentioned it earlier. I'm repeating myself on purpose. What they then do is deny all their fractured parts and only present the highest part of themselves. And therefore, then they expect their students to do the same. And so they never address the shadow part. They never heal, because to heal the shadow part, you've got to bring it to the surface. And you've got to attack it. You've got to attack it formally. You've got to address it, not just forgiveness, but forgiveness as in I need to understand it. I need to understand why I've done this unto myself. I need to understand that an inner reflection gets outer projected, and the world is an outer projection of an inner condition. And I need to understand it. We're not going into, why have I done this to myself? What did I do to choose to get raped? We're not going to go into that ridiculous bullshit that so many Course in Miracles and other non-dual teachers do. Oh, what did she do to deserve this? I've been in a car accident. What did I do to deserve? Hey, the script is playing. What have you done to deserve this? You chose to fall asleep and make manifest in vengeance. That's what you've done, Holy Son of God. Take full responsibility for being the dreamer and the projection that you appear to be as. Be aware. Most people are in some way or another deluded. If they were fully awake to self, they would have no need to be informed. They would join the Christ mind and from there light up the dreaming mind. Okay. If a Course in Miracles student or teacher hasn't fully understood the non-duality or unity awareness of a course, they have completely failed to understand it. If you think anything other than yourself is talking to you, you're back in duality. If you think that Jesus is talking to you, or a Zork is talking to you, or the Archangel Michael's talking to you, you're in duality. You have not understood the course. If you think Jesus transcribed the course, you're in duality. You haven't understood it. It's addressing you, the mind. And who's addressing you, the dreaming mind? You, the Christ mind. It's all you. The awake part, the holy awake self, and the holy asleep self. All of it's you. And when you awake, what happens to the sleep self? It dissolves into the right mind, and it's over. Disappearance of the universe. Gary Renard, the best descriptor of the entire course, I can, in one sentence, the disappearance of the universe means the same as the awakening to self. Okay. Be wary of teachers that are emotionally disconnected, but act emotionally connected. Because what they've done is they've disconnected from their fractured selves, and they're only presenting the mask of innocence, or what they imagine the mask of innocence should be. And like I say, if they start to speak in soft tones, punch them in the nose and see how long that soft tone lasts for. You'll see. It's just pretend. Okay. Many of them have barely left school. Many of them still live with their mothers. Zero life experience. And now they want to give grown-ass people relationship advice. The Course in Miracles, the only relationship advice, the only advice the Course in Miracles gives is practice forgiveness. Forgive. Abide in silent stillness, gratitude, forgive. It doesn't address trauma. Okay. Many of these so-called teachers purely chase fame. Why do they chase fame? Popularity. Why popularity? More students. Why more students? Money. And then they've got a million excuses. They're so clever, so manipulative, because they're mostly very manipulative. It's all divine providence. God sent them my way. God sent me the students. God will provide. Those motherfuckers must go and work, earn a living, make money, and then give it to me. And that's God providing. No, motherfucker. It's all you. And you're forcing fractured parts of yourself to go out and work so this little fracture could be special. Do you realize the karmic imprint you're creating? Course in Miracles makes a fundamental error, and it's all got to do with level confusion. Now realize there's 4 levels of being or existence in dream. First one, unconscious consciousness. In other words, stupid as pig shit, completely unaware of being aware. You believe crystals have healing power. You're asleep. Ooh, I'm offended. I don't give a fuck. Okay? Whether it's a crystal and it's sparkly and it's clever, well, guess what? This one gave it to me. Someone gave it to me. Girlfriend gave it to me. Okay? It's just fucking pretty. That's it. Okay. Number 2, conscious consciousness. So you've gone from stupid, moron, asleep, okay, no idea of anything, shag, marry, kill, to conscious consciousness. You're aware, you're starting to become aware of body, self, society, and now, of course, it's eat, pray, love. Then you get into conscious awareness. This is now moving into conscious awareness. Awareness, right-mindedness, consciousness, dream state. So you're becoming aware. You're getting glimpses into eternity. Holy instants. Continue the work. And eventually, the I am. Awareness of awareness. Present moment awareness. And you can maintain it for little glimpses of what appears as time. And then God takes you to the final step, and it's just pure awareness. How do I know? My experience of physically dying at the age of 33 and being clinically dead for 4 hours and transcending this physical body, going into the spirit world and realizing there was a realm beyond that spirit world that I couldn't access, but I could feel the presence, the all-encompassing, all-pervading, all unconditional loving presence of that in which we abide. And that gave me the glimpse into realizing the total non-duality of it. It's made me gentler, it's made me softer, but it's made me way more authentic and quite roguish. Okay. Level confusion is the fundamental mistake that many a Course in Miracles student does, and very often why they give it up halfway. The Course in Miracles is a lifelong practice. Okay, it's a non-dual lifelong practice. Non-dual, I prefer the word unity awareness, because it's about practicing present moment awareness. Now, you're not going to be able to do this day in and out for the rest of your life. Some are designed that way. Some are designed to read. But there are some people that experience and express God by abidance, not by reading. It's not for everybody, okay? Always realize that metaphysics and psychology are addressing different levels of the ladder. Don't get confused. Trauma, you address head on. The nature of being is what the purpose of non-duality is. Non-duality, Course in Miracles, Advaita Vedanta, Upanishads, Book of the Dead, Tao Te Ching, is taking us into the understanding our essential nature, the essence of what we are, the essence we share with self, everything, and that which created us, our source. Do not mistake the nature of self with dealing with trauma. Please. And if you see students and fellow students in trouble, get them to some form of help. You know, people that are on the suicide path, if they need medication, they need help, they're not going to ask for help. They're always going to tell you they're okay. Be that friend that steps up and acts, okay? And be vigilant. Do not use non-duality or Course in Miracles at the cost of connection. Now, dispassion for the world doesn't mean you stop being passionate for the rest of your fractured selves. You may not care what they think because you know it's the ego playing out, but you care for the essence of all of yourself because it matters. Why? Because the essence of what we are is the body of Christ. What is the body of Christ? The essential essence of everything. The life force flowing through all of it. Why? Because all characters that appear and disappear appear in the dreaming mind, which is just the asleep part of our collective Christ mind, which is the extension of God's loving mind. So, of course, you care. We are here to lighten the dream. And how do you do that? By being very serious and quoting A Course in Miracles. No, abso-fucking-lutely not. By bringing light, authenticity. Hey, you're better off sending memes and making jokes and lightening up a room with laughter than being serious Course in Miracles teachers. Bring lightness to it. Bring joy. Bring the infinite lightness of being to your fellow fractured selves. Be open. Be vulnerable. Be authentic. Warts and all. Be yourself. Because the best thing you can do is show others that as you awaken to self and you start to realize the nature of self, you can still be the rogue cowboy. You can still be whatever, little cooked. Realize you cannot detach. Don't detach from the world. How can you detach from that which exists inside your dreaming mind? Be non-attached to the outcome. Realize the script is written. You realize the interconnectedness between all of it. Don't try to be super independent. Oh, it's now the feminine God's time. So now we're going to be super independent woman. You want to be loved. You want to be contained. You want to be shared. You want to be nurtured. Independence, push them away. Don't be codependent. You don't be victim. You need someone else to help you take care of you. Okay, we're not 1950s anymore. Interdependence. One indivisible dreaming mind, fractured into billions of thoughts that have taken form. One dreaming mind, interdependent on one another. You're not here to be alone. You're here to be all one. Connect, share, serve all of yourselves. Okay. Realize this much. And this is my concluding part. A true teacher of God cannot know what's good for the students. A true teacher of God admits he doesn't know what's good for him, for himself or herself. A true teacher, which is actually a liberator, doesn't presume they know what's good for the greater whole. A true liberator trusts the Lord God of their being, abides there as often as possible, listens for direct instruction, listens for inspiration, listens to the voice for God, and then acts upon it by bringing their passionate nature and their passionate, talented nature into the world and sharing themselves wholeheartedly, fully transparent, fully authentic. They only know what's good from our true self. They only know what's good as they transcend their own path into the awakening of self. They're not there to presume they know anything. You'll see, true liberators, unlike teachers, liberators don't presume to know anything. Beloved, be very wary of anyone that tells you how to behave, how to think, how to act, what is spiritual, what is right, what is wrong, and some form of dogma. If you haven't had a direct experience thereof, it's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. Be aware of what's true and what's nonsense. Let's dump that spiritual mumbo jumbo magic nonsense. Hey, crystals are beautiful. Incense smells nice. Put pictures of little Buddhas everywhere in your lounge and a statue of Mary and Joseph and little baby Jesus in Christmas time. It's fantastic. Put up a Christmas tree and have Thanksgiving. But be aware of what is a play and what is pure dogma meant to divert your attention from the absolute reality you share with self and God. You don't need a teacher. Your true teacher is within you. The ultimate teacher is the Lord God of your being, the Holy Spirit, which is the life force that flows through you. And when you align with that Holy Spirit, what are you? You are Spirit. Holy Spirit. Speak less, unless you really have to contribute. Listen more. Listen to connect, not to speak. Abide as often as you can in grounded, silent stillness. Offer gratitude for remembering, for knowing that the source of what we are, the creator of what we are, has not abandoned us and has left the clues within ourselves so that we could remember, become members of the Christ family we've always been and always will be. When you align with your own inner teacher, it's clarity. It's clarity. It's total conviction. It's wide open. It's infinite potential, the infinite lightness of being. Please realize that no amount of psychotherapy will show you the essential nature of your being. Get glimpses. And no amount of non-dual or unity awareness, understanding will help you heal your self-made egoic traumas. You have to embrace both. There's two wolves. Which wolf do you feed? And neither of the motherfuckers. You are the witness of the two wolves. They're both illusionary constructs of a dreaming mind. You are that which witnesses them. You integrate them both. When you integrate the light into the darkness, what happens? Integrate light in the darkness, only the light is left. But you have to bring the darkness to the surface so that the light can expose your erroneous, your source error thinking, and bring you into the understanding that how you forgive and how you understand, and then how you transcend by realizing forgiveness merely means none of this happens. It appeared to happen in a dream that I look back from the end point, not realizing it's already over. I remember to laugh. You are the light. Be the light. Don't give your light away. Extend your light. Because if you give it away, you give your power away. You extend it and you share it with your passionate nature, all of yourself. You pour yourself in to your fractured selves, because there's one self awakening to the Christ self we are. Be that knowingly. Thanks for joining me. Hope that made sense.